Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to create this dashboard from scratch. Now this tutorial is part of a two-parts tutorial where we're going to create two screens and also create the mobile dashboard versions of these two screens. So feel free to check out also part 2, which is going to come really soon. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about Figma or you're just starting out, feel free to check out my Figma course, which I'm going to leave in the link in the comment section. So let's get started, because by the end of this tutorial you're going to learn all sorts of tips and tricks in order to improve and speed up your workflow in Figma. So let's get started and let's create this dashboard design. So the very first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to click on the top frame tool, and then we're going to go over desktop and we're going to select the very first one so that we can have a frame which is 1440 pixel by 1024. Now the next stage is we're going to create a layout grid. So we're going to click on plus right over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to click on these dots and we're going to select the columns layout. Now as you can see, by default we have 5 columns, but we're only going to need 4, so that's what we're going to do right here. We're just going to add 4 columns. We're going to add some margin in order to get some just lateral margin. Now we're going to add 30 of margin, and we're also going to add a gutter of 30. So by doing that, we basically have our base structure, and then now we're going to start working on this. So we're going to add just the basic elements so that we have a complete overview of the project. So we're gonna start with the top menu, and after that we're just going to add the 2 main sections which are going to serve us as the containers for the UX elements. All right, so I'm just going to click over here on these, going to distribute vertically, and I'm also going to actually let's add just a little bit of more height. So I'm going to bring this one here, going to distribute horizontally again, or vertically actually, and I think we're in a good place at the moment. So next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to change all of these to fills, and I'm going to change the background color so that we can have a little bit of visual separation between these, and I'm probably going to go with a hue around these lines, and overall I think this is looking good. Now another thing I want to do is to just change the layout grid color so that it's a little bit less invasive, and by doing that I can focus a little bit more on the visual design aspect of this whole composition. So let's get started and let's add the fonts, or actually the typography. So the very first one is going to be administration, and we're going to use Lato, which is a free Google Web font which you can download on the Google website, and we're going to make this let's keep it regular, and we're going to make it gray, and let's go ahead here and just try and match it. I'm going to add a little bit of distance between one letter and the other, and we're going to make it medium. So that's that. Cool. Now we're going to duplicate this just a few times, and we're good to go with this. Okay, perfect. Now let's add the other labels, and first one is going to be human resource. Second one is going to be public relations, and countries. Okay, perfect. So now that we have that, just want to check the spacing between one another, and I think overall this is looking good. Let's move the labels, let's create a duplicate, and by the way I'm also going to add the keyboard viewer so you can see each and every keyboard action which I'm doing. So in this case I literally just grabbed all of these text layers, and while holding Alt or the Option key, I just dragged with the left mouse button. So as you can see, you can create a quick duplicate of these layers. So just gonna go and add overview, and I think it will only need the overview here, and add text on the very right side, which is going to be updated at, and we're just going to add a name, February 20, 2022. All right, so far so good. Now the next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to add the divider lines. So just going to create a line, and you can simply go here on the line item. I just use the keyboard shortcut, and I accessed the line tool. So we're also going to make it with a little bit less opacity, or actually less color intensity. So maybe something around these lines would do the job. Now we're also going to duplicate this line a few times, and so far so good. Okay, overall I think we're moving in the right direction. One thing that I'm noticing is that I will need some more gutter between the layout grids. So that's what I'm gonna do right now in order to really make this stand out a little bit more. And yeah, maybe something around these lines would perfectly do the job. And now that we're going to update this, I'm just going to bring this one here, I'm going to bring this line on the right, this one here on the right again, and yeah, so far so good. We're there more or less, and we can always tweak it later. But now let's focus on the very top section. Now for the top section, I'm going to start adding some iconography. So I'm using Nucleo icons. I'm going to go with the Google Material icons. And by the way, Nucleo is a free icon manager, which you can download by simply going on nucleoapp.com. So just go at this link, and you can click on download free app, and then you're going to essentially have the option to have Nucleo. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to add some sort of a logo on the very top left. So for the logo, we're just going to go with this icon right here. That will do for now. And we're also going to need some sort of extra icons. So I'm just going to add them here, and the reason is going to be clear in just a moment. I'm also going to add some other icons, something related with maybe with time, or with trying to find like some icons which are going to be similar. And this icon we're gonna use is going to be in this one right here, and then this one for the main settings. Now let's also add a arrow. So let's find it here. We're probably going to go with this one. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to select all of these icons, and one thing that I like to do is to basically ungroup them, so they're not going to be in a frame anymore. We're just going to have the groups. So now that we've done that, we can simply start adapting the icons and adding them inside the project. So I'm just going to go over here in the fill and start tweaking the color around, and probably we're gonna go with something around these lines. Okay, perfect. And we're going to center this horizontally, and We're also going to make these icons just a little bit bigger. And we're also going to add the labels right here. First one is going to be data analysis. Or actually, let's make it not all caps. I'm going to add 0 here, and we're going to make this darker. Just a bit bigger. I think 13 points will do. We're going to repeat this just a few times. All right, and I think this will do. Let's change the color. Probably going to go something around these lines. Actually, let's bring them down so that we can easily see. And by the way, we're also going to select these 3 layers. We're gonna lock them so we can have a clear picture on the. We can just move around more easily. This is going to be transactions, and this one is going to be settings. Okay, so far so good. And we're also going to just group these, group these, group these. We're going to distribute horizontally. We're going to bring them, oops, I'm just going to bring them a little bit more over here. I'm also going to select this and going to change the color of this icon and make the text bold in this one. Another thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a rectangle below. I'm going to add 1.5 of height, and I'm going to make the color blue. All right, so far so good. And now let's move on to the right. So on the right, we need to add a few rectangles for the weeks. So let's go over here. Let's add just a little bit of roundedness to the mix. And let's add the weeks. Week 1. And we're just going to grab this style and paste it over here. Also make this one like that. And just going to bring this one. We're going to need the arrow in just a moment. Okay, perfect. So far, so good. Now, the other thing that we're gonna need is we're going to need some sort of an avatar on the very right. And what we're gonna do is we're going to leverage a sketch plugin, which is Unsplash. And if you don't have Unsplash installed, you can simply go on plugins, click on manage plugins, and basically you're going to be redirected to the plugins manager where you can decide to install. You can simply type in Unsplash and you can easily find it. So we're going to go here, write portrait, and we're going to decide upon a portrait which works well with the style. Maybe something around maybe this one, since it's a light colors and looks professional overall. So yeah, let's just go with this one right here. And we're also going to add another block right here. We're going to, yeah, all right. So I think this overall seems to be working pretty well. Let's reverse this one. And I think we're good when it comes to this section right here. I'm going to rename this to Richard. And overall, this is looking fine. All right, so far so good. So we have the very top navbar, and now we're going to move on to the next areas, which are going to be the bottom sections. So for the bottom sections, I'm going to start by just duplicating this line, changing the rotation aspect and making it smaller. And I'm going to add the line right here. I'm also going to duplicate this text right here. So we're going to create the very first section. So this is going to be marketing. I'm going to move it right here. And at the very end, we're going to add 22%. And we're also going to add a tag. So far, so good. All right, so let's add this tag as this right here. Let's make it just a little bit smaller. And let's center it. Let's make it blue. Gonna make it blue again. And add 10% opacity over here. Let's also add some a complete radius. So, and this text right here, we're going to make it more gray. All right, so this is looking good. I'm going to rename this to row. We're going to duplicate this just 2 times. Perfect, so just need to make it a bit more top. Cool. Next one is going to be development. Third one, human resources. Let's change this. Cool. So far, so good. And now comes the fun part, because we're going to use another plugin for the pie chart, which is called Charts. And again, if you don't have this plugin, simply go on the Manage Plugins, and over there you can simply search for Charts. And once you have this plugin, simply go over here, hide the labels. Going to add 3 segments. Also going to add an inner layer radius. So something around these lines. And we're going to simply click on Add Chart. Remove this frame and bring this chart right here. So we have our nice chart. What we're gonna do is we're going to add a stroke of maybe like 4. Yep, that will do. And the fill is going to have the same color, and the outer sections are going to have some sort of like a little bit of a darker color. Cool. We're going to duplicate this and add the 22% right in the middle of the chart. We're also going to add a top label, so we're going to need those for all of the other sections as well. So let's bring these guys a little bit more down. This is going to be overview status. Center this. And let's make it bold. All right, so this is looking good, and let's move on to the next ones. This one is going to be HR data, and we're also going to add a text similar to this one. Oh, okay, perfect. Now over here we're going to add some, we're going to create a small bar chart. Now we're going to create this one manually, so you can see how to do that as well. And let's just add this letter. Let's add a rectangle here at the top. And maybe let's go with 7. Yeah, that will do. And let's just duplicate these layers a few times. All right, perfect. So what we'll want is we're just going to grab all of these and try to make them stay perfectly. I think we're good to go. So we're just going to move around these elements and, you know, make them smaller, make them bigger, and really just try and create our own chart. Just gonna keep this one there, and yeah, this will do. Now we're just going to select all of these elements right here, and we're going to select also every second one. Let's just make it for 50%. We're also going to change instead of A, B, and C. Let's go with 1, 2, or actually, no, let's just keep it letters. Cool, so we're good to go when it comes to this chart right here. Also going to duplicate this. And this is going to be some sort of like a headline of the chart. Let's make it bigger, and we're going to go with regular. Gonna go with the same text color, and we are pretty much good to go. So I'm going to duplicate this layers right here. I'm going to remove all of these text, select these guys and make them way smaller. Gonna be 10 by 10. Or actually, let's make them 8 by 8. That will do. And let's just bring them down just a little bit. We're going to make them full colors. Let's make it a little bit more gray, and probably this one we're going to go with this and just make it 50%. So yeah, this will do. Just change some text here and there. 0%, 50%, and 50%. Cool. So we got also this one right here. Let's just make it a touch bigger. That will do. All right. So the very next thing that we're gonna do is, well, first of all, we're gonna make these two into italics. So let's just do that, and we're going to make these bold, just to give it some visual differentiation. And we're also going to select all of this and basically bring it to the very right, and we're also going to change the color of all of these elements to a more red color. So yeah, something around these lines will definitely do. Now let's also change this right here and the value. And maybe just change around just a little bit these guys right here, so we have a little bit of more visual differentiation when it comes to these two graphs. Perfect. Let's change it to public relations, managers and others. That's fine. I want to keep it the same. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to essentially duplicate these right here, and let's do that. All right, perfect. So we're going to add some more of these. We're going to change them as well. So the very first thing that I'm noticing is that we don't really want the tags on the very left. So just gonna bring this one here, and I'm going to add some ovals instead. And I'm going to show you a cool trick to basically replace the names on the left in a very quick and efficient way. So that's going to come in just a moment. So let's just focus on these ovals for a sec, and let's try and get them distributed. I think I want to make them just a little bit smaller. Yeah, that will do. All right. Again, I need to just reorganize these guys, since for some reason they're a little bit actually, let's just grab all of these first. Let's replace them, and yeah, actually that will do. So the very next thing that we'll want to do is to hop back into Unsplash, and we're going to select some other images. So let's go over here, plugins, Unsplash. We're gonna search for portrait again, and I'm just going to select some other images which of portraits, which I think will look good in the composition. Again, I'm not really picky about the person, or I'm picky about the composition of the photography, and I want to sort of find colors which are going to look well in the composition. So anything which perhaps is too vibrant, or maybe like the composition, like in this instance, the person isn't really zoomed in and working well in this specific instance. I just want to like try and find like some other photos, like this one for instance is a little bit too zoomed in. And I know these might seem like small details, but they really make a difference in the end if you're really looking to get that pixel perfect visual design. And this is purely from a visual design perspective. So yeah, just keep keep it in mind. And yeah, overall I'm looking for a little bit more lighter photos, so photos which are a bit too light. Yeah, I think this will do for now. Maybe this one is a little bit too, has this yellow tint to it, which is a bit too vibrant for compared to what I'm looking to go with for this specific composition. I'm looking for something which is a little bit more toned down, if that makes sense. And I'm probably going to just increase the exposure a bit on this photo, a bit of contrast. And yeah, I think overall this is looking good. Now, one thing that we can do in order to add some random names in a fast and efficient way is we can simply go over here, and under plugins we can go and under content reel, and this is going to take just a moment to load up. As you can see, you can literally click on full names, and we're going to have some random names here. And so that's pretty much taken care of. And over here we can also add some currencies. So as you can see, some random numbers have been generated in just a second. So this is really useful if you need some data fast, essentially. So I'm going to write here top performers. And I think we're good when it comes to this specific section. Now, what we're gonna do is we're also going to add some labels below. So let's go ahead and do that. Basically, we're going to create a long table view. And let's do that. Let's just bring this one all the way to the right. Maybe just reduce, I'm actually wondering if it's worth just reducing a little bit the distance between one row and the other for this one. All right, cool. Yeah, so far so good. Now we're actually going to remove the second one. I'm actually wondering. Yeah, well, let's just do that. Let's just create the other elements. I'm going to have here an email, which or maybe some of the other data we have at our disposal here. Have full address, we have phone number. Let's just keep it at that. Here, and going to have the date here. So let's move all this section a little bit below. Let's add some labels, which are going to be outside. Going to be name. This is going to be phone. This one here is the address. Actually, the phone is on the very right. Yep. And date. Cool. So actually, let's do one thing. Let's just remove this for now, for the time being. And another thing that we're gonna do is we're just going to bring all of these all the way here to the top and maybe make it 50% opacity, so it takes a little bit of less visual emphasis. And the next thing which we're gonna do is we're going to just copy one of these guys, and we're going to bring them here. Let's make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to duplicate it once more, and what we're gonna do, I'm just going to bring content reel here for now, and make it 4 by 4, and the opacity is going to be 100%, and just make it a bit smaller. We can create these 3 dots right here, center this, and we have our button. Just renaming it real quick. Cool. So far, so good. Now, what we're gonna do is we're just going to group all of these. Group and group. And we're going to select all of these elements. We're going to distribute horizontally. Cool. Now we're going to group them. Now the very next thing that we're gonna do is we're just going to create a bunch of these rows. So I'm just selecting all of these elements, bringing them here, duplicating them a few times, and we are pretty much good to go. Let's just vertically space this up. Now let's bring back content reel, select full name. I'm going to select this one again, add the date, select the address, and for some reason one is missing. No idea why that is happening actually. Okay, that will do. And let's change the phone number as well. And for the most part, we're in a good position. Now, what I'm gonna do is just going to change the background just to make it a little bit lighter. And I'm going to turn off the grids since we do not need them anymore. I just want to hide them. I don't want to like remove them altogether. So yeah, I think so far so good. Now we're going to organize the layer, rename them. So this is going to be logo. I'm just going to rename all of the layers, group them together, and okay, so we have the top section done. And we're just going to select all of this. And we're going to rename it to header. Cool. Now this is going to be row 1, row 2. Let's just rename all of these guys. It's going to be chart. So just ungroup all of these. We're going to just bring them here. Cool, so we're good with this section right here. Then we just need to modify the one on the bottom and we're pretty much good to go. All right, so we managed to make it to the end, and the next video is going to be about the second screen, and then we're going to turn all of these into mobile designs. So stay tuned. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up as this really motivates me to create more content. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or text me on Instagram, and I'll try my best to reach out back as soon as I can. And on my YouTube channel, I have over 300 videos, both software tutorials and also UI UX design tutorials. I've been a UI UX designer for over 8 years, working both as a freelancer, companies which are just starting out, all the way to companies with thousands of employees. So I definitely have quite a bit of experience, which I share for free on my YouTube channel. So feel free to check it out. And again, I'll see you in the next video.